Hey everyone, my name is Nolan. Welcome to a Marvel Rivals video. First Marvel Rival videos I'm making, and I'm gonna do a tips and tricks video on how to play Cloak and Dagger. Right now, I guess they are the people that I main. I play them a lot, and I drop 20,000+ heals in ranked. Sometimes I drop 30,000, and then I always drop like 15,000 heals in just casual play. So I'm gonna tell you guys how you could properly play her. I'm not like a pro top player by any means, but hopefully I can give you guys some tips and tricks, especially if you're like a noob and you have no idea what you're doing.
Lovely planet you got there.
Okay, first up, for some general information. First of all, she's given a 3-star difficulty rating. However, in my opinion, she is a really easy support main to use. She has very basic functionalities. For example, her attacks heal, and they heal in an area damage effect, as you guys can see. Her abilities are just healing abilities. Her ultimate is a healing / attack ability. If you swap to Cloak, he is just an attacking dude. It's very straightforward, honestly. I don't know why she has 3-star difficulty, especially like once you watch this video, you should have like all the general mechanics down, and you should be able to crank out some stats with this character. That being said, she is not a high damage support by any means, and Cloak is also not a high damage attack support by any means. So you want to be staying pretty much behind your team at all times. You do not want to push up with them. The only exception would be is if you use your ultimate. We'll go over that later. But yeah, you want to stay behind them. You want them to take the damage for you, and you just want to be healing. You can also get close to your teammates because, like I said, your healing is in an area damage. So if I take some damage here and then I come right next to them and I start healing, what you guys will notice is I get healed too. So that's kind of an exception, but yeah. Also, Cloak's abilities do not affect Dagger's cooldown abilities. If I use one of my abilities here to like blind somebody and then switch to Dagger, you will notice I still have my abilities. So it's important to keep that in mind. Okay, first let's talk about Dagger. So like I said, her attack is very straightforward. It's just mainly a healing attack to heal your teammates. It does do some damage, although it's not a lot. Her projectiles are homing both for allies and for enemies. What I've noticed is that for enemies, the homing is actually based on your mouse cursor position and not the projectile position. So for example, the closer I get to an enemy, once I get close enough, it will start homing in. That was a bad example because it was already about to die. But like right here, so it's homing on there and then homing on there, even though my cursor is not on the enemy. However, if I get close and still keep my cursor relatively far away, what you will notice is even though that the projectile is close, it's not homing in. So it's actually based on the cursor position, and that is when the projectile will lock on. However, it is not the same for allies. The projectile will home based on how close it is. So keep that in mind, because the next tip, we're going to be talking about how the projectile ricochets. This means you can use it to like bounce it off walls. You just got to get the projectile close to your allies to heal them. So bounce it off walls. If you're far away from your enemies, you can still use it like this, like bounce it off walls. It can be kind of hard to get used to. In fact, I might not actually even be able to do it from this angle. But yeah, you can bounce it off walls to get some heals off. And of course, it does ricochet to attack enemies as well. Also, the ricochet bounces once. As you can see, on the second collision, it will be destroyed. So keep that in mind. Also, you can use this attack to take down some of those pesky air troops like Iron Man. Again, you don't want to be the primary damage doer, okay? You're a support main. You're supposed to be healing. Or actually, sorry. I shouldn't be saying support. It's strategist. You're a strategist. But she's a very good healer. Dagger's a very good healer. You want to be healing people, so yeah. I mean, as you can see, like if this was an Iron Man main, we wouldn't be doing a whole lot of damage, but it's good supplementary damage. All right, next up, we're going to be talking about the Veil of the Light Force, which is our E ability, which is essentially just a healing wall. This thing is pretty straightforward. If you have a bunch of your teammates in a group, you want to be using that because it heals quite a bit. It also amplifies how much they are healed for a little bit. As you can see, they had like a green health bar. While they have that green health bar, you heal more with them. So it's a pretty straightforward ability. One thing you need to note, though, is that if it touches a structure, it will be destroyed. So if you're playing like one of those game mode, like the convoy game mode, where you have to like push an object to a goal, you want to make sure that you're not going to hit that object. I do it all the time. Like if I have a bunch of enemies grouped up, I will like shoot the ability and it will hit a wall. before it hits my teammates, and then it will despawn. So you got to be really careful of that. Also, its range is limited. Its range is really good, but it's still limited. It's not going to go until it touches something, basically. Okay, next up is the Dagger Storm, which is our right-click ability. It is basically just like a healing dome, kind of like a healing spell. I don't know if you guys play Clash of Clans, but basically while teammates and you are inside this, you'll be healed. And as you guys can see, the healing is quite phenomenal. Now, this ability can be used for several circumstances. It's not something you just kind of want to be spraying every chance you get. There are specific circumstances, why am I getting called, where you want to be using this ability. The first one is to heal you. Let's say that for some reason your DPS or your heavies or maybe even supports just are not doing their job, and you have the entire team pushing in from behind you and doing damage to you. Well, what you can do is throw down your healing. Now you have some protection. Now this is a little bit more advanced, and by advanced I mean not really advanced, but you can swap to Cloak while in the healing dome to do some damage because you're being healed while you're in the dome. So all you have to do is sit in the dome, swap to Cloak, do some damage maybe to defend yourself a little bit. Maybe that'll give your teammates a chance to get back to you and help you. So that is like one of the first circumstances where you can use that ability. Now the second ability is of course to heal your allies. Now it does take some practice to figure out when the best time to do that is. However, usually it's like when they're on the point, when they're on the payload, and there's multiple enemies grouped together that are taking quite a bit of damage. I usually like to use it when my team is taking damage and I'm taking damage. I like to save this for when my team is taking damage, but then I like to use this when I'm taking damage along with my team, so that way I can heal myself while also healing them. That's usually when I like to use it. So yeah, just keep your eye out for circumstances where there'll be high DPS like Hawkeye or like Punisher or like Ultimates. Just kind of keep your eye out. That'll be when it's most helpful.
I'm ready to put on a show.
Alright, now we're going to move on to Cloak. He is a very easy like attack person to use. He's not a duelist by any means. He's just kind of like there to help support Dagger, basically, if that makes sense. And also, he can help support your team. His attack is just a beam of energy, infinite ammo. You can just use it. However, it is timed, I believe. Nope. Okay, I guess I'm wrong. It's not timed. But similar to Dagger, depending on how close your cursor is, it will start to home in on an enemy. Makes it very, very easy to hit your shots. So, yeah. Next up, we have the Terror Cape, which is our E attack, which is very, very similar to Dagger's E attack. It's actually not a... Actually, is it an attack? I don't know. But basically, it casts a giant square that blinds enemies it touches. Now, something very important to note is it also amplifies the damage they take while they're under this blind effect. So, if I throw this down, and it is now blind, it does damage, and it also increases the damage that they take. Very, very important. There are a couple of circumstances when you want to use this. The first is if your team is pretty much on full health, you know, you don't got to worry about them, and there's a lot of enemies grouped together. So then what you want to do is like throw it down, and that way your team will just increase their damage. So very useful. Now, actually, personally, the main circumstance that I use this in is when I'm getting like dived on or dove on by an Iron Fist main, or somebody pushing me, and my team is nowhere to be seen. What I'll do is I'll swap to Dagger, throw down my healing, and then swap back to Cloak. And then what I'll do is I'll blind them, so that way I can increase my damage, and maybe I can get away. If I'm full health, that usually works, and if I also have healing, it usually works. If it's like a Vanguard, sometimes it doesn't work. There are other methods for escape, but yeah, it's just a nice way, like, because I kill, usually if it's a DPS, I'll kill him. So there's like a few exceptions, like Iron Fist is unfortunately usually an exception because he heals, Wolverine heals, so yeah. Next up is the right-click attack, or I guess attack or support. I don't really know what it would be in this circumstance, but it's called the Dark Teleportation. Now what it does is it makes you and your allies invincible and invisible for a very, very brief time, and it works in a very large area, and it also allows you to briefly fly. So if I use it and then I start flying, what you can see is I am able to escape, and hopefully you're able to see how big of an area it is. If not, I'm going to show you in a second. Again, remember, it doesn't just make your allies invisible, it makes them invincible. So if I use it, what you can see is they are invisible and invincible, but very, 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 very brief time. It's very brief. So it could protect your allies, help them escape damage. Again, if you're getting dove on by a DPS main, it can also help you escape. You can use it, go up here, and maybe you'll get away. It's pretty hard to see. In fact, you're like completely invisible. The only way a DPS is going to know where you are is if they're looking at the circle and they point out where the center is. That's the only way they're going to be able to know where you are. So it's actually a very good way to escape. However, its probably most valuable use is avoiding ultimates like Iron Man's ult or Wanda's ult or Jeff the Shark's ult. have like one clip of me saving like 1 or 2 teammates with this ability from Jeff the Shark Soul. I didn't want to take other people's clips of them saving their teammates. I wanted to use my own clips.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
But it's pretty hard to do. All right, it's something that I've only learned recently in like the last day. So yeah, I haven't done a lot of practice with it, but yes, it is possible to avoid ultimates with it. So it's very, very hard to do because usually you're on a dagger, and so you got to swap to this and then use your ability, and you got to be very, very good at timing it because you can't do it too early because it's a very brief ability, and then you can't do it too late because they'll just be dead. Okay, last up is the ultimate ability. Now, this ability will be the same no matter which hero you're on. If you're on Dagger, it will be the same as if you were on Cloak. Now, what you guys may be noticing recently is like a lot of clips on Instagram, TikTok, or whatever have been showcasing how overpowered the healing is. Now, of course, it does do damage to enemies. I will show you guys. Actually, first, I should describe what it is. Basically, it's 3 dashes, and on the dash path, it leaves like this ooze that both heals your allies and damages enemies. So I will show you guys. Once this dude respawns, I will dash, and it will dash, and then it will dash. And as you can see, it does damage. It's not a lot of damage, but it is damage. And one thing you may notice right there is I ran into the wall and got stuck. You want to be careful because you don't want to do that. It'll be a waste of some very, very valuable healing and damage. So do not run into walls. Now, the damage is not great, but the healing is phenomenal. I think I even have a clip of how much damage I was able to tank with this. And you guys have probably seen, I think someone was able to out-heal like 3 Star-Lord ultimates. That's freaking crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna wait for these dudes to respawn, and then I'm gonna use my ability, and these dudes should just be unkillable. I mean, need I say more? So obviously the best situations to use these in are when there are as many people, both allies and enemies, in one spot at the same time, and that will usually be on the point, like when pushing a convoy or holding the point for domination. That'll almost always be the best circumstance to use this ultimate in. Usually if we're pushing the convoy, what I'll do is I'll go up to one side of the convoy, and then I'll form like a triangle around it. That's usually what I'll do, because then like my allies will get healed no matter where they are around the convoy, and then also enemies will take damage if they're around it. I'll sometimes do the same on domination, but usually it's more beneficial to be healing my allies than to be doing damage. So usually I'll just do like a straight line back and forth. Maybe I'll stagger it a little bit. It's just kind of up to you and what kind of like situation you're in, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, hopefully you guys can see now this hero is not hard to use at all. You just got to get used to like how you use the combos, like getting used to being able to like escape people and then like heal your allies and do damage. I don't know. I don't know. I got the hang of her pretty dang fast. So yep, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, subscribe for more Marvel Rival videos. And I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye-bye.